Today, I'm going to show you just how I make soup, and it's pretty good stuff. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. So let's get to it. Well, hello, beautiful people. My husband called me just a minute ago and he said, you know, I've been expecting your soup all week. And I'm like, oh, so you probably should quit your job now and come home since you're got a new job as an inspector. It ain't going too well. So yeah, but he has been waiting a whole week. I haven't felt good. The good old ulcerative colitis has been kicking my butt, literally again. But that's okay. Y'all don't want to hear about that. So I started making this type of soup a while back because it seems to work real well with my stomach problems. So what I did was, over here is a large chicken breast that my husband cooked on the grill last night. And I like the flavor that it gives the soup. So now I'm going to cut it all up so we can put it in to our pot. Here's my beautiful chicken breast. They don't look too beautiful, do they? Okay, we're going to have some garlic to put in there, some carrots, zucchini squash, yellow squash, some cabbage, red new potatoes, and some yard-long beans, onion, some of my chicken bone broth, and some tomato sauce. So let's get to it. Okay, the bone that's left over from my chicken, I put in the freezer because after a while, as I collect the bones, I will use them for chicken bone broth. Caliber, quit that. Caliber's scratching my chair. Just let me know you want outside, dude. Hang on just a minute. He's a bully. Okay, so let's put this in this bag. And then I have another bag in my freezer that I will freeze this in. Oh, I almost forgot. We have cilantro. Can't forget that. That's a good thing. So let's open up our chicken bone broth. I like to try to put the things in there that take a while to cook down. Like I'm going to go ahead and peel my potatoes. Yummy. And my carrots. And get them in. Okay, let's peel this stuff up. You know, I started YouTube years and years ago. I'm a big fisherwoman. And I started with a channel that I still post a few things on. It's called Pamela Girlfish. And I just love to fish. My father used to wake me up in the middle of the night and take me fishing with him because he didn't want to fish alone. And I guess, you know, that kind of bred it in me to do that. And my grandfather, his dad, was a big fisherman. My grandfather, Pop, I remember him very well. He was either carrying his little metal fish bucket and fishing pole, and he had a little folding chair. Or he was working in his garden. And he always said, if the good Lord ever takes me, I hope I'm working in my garden or I'm fishing. And the good Lord took him one day. He was fishing with my father. So the Lord does answer prayers. But anyway, I love to fish. I grew up with it in my blood. And I fished pretty hard for years until a couple of years ago. I got really sick, and I knew, like, probably 2 or 3 years before I started feeling very ill. I would go on my trips, and it would be very hard on me, and I was very exhausted, or I would get real sick after. And it would take me, a month sometimes to recover. And of course, that wasn't in the plans when you rented a place for your RV for 2 weeks. And I had to pre-do this a year ahead. And I would go down and I'd fish for 2 weeks. And I was on the Hobie kayak fishing team. And I had sponsors. Fathomworks Rods sponsored me for my fishing rods, which, oh my gosh, they got a kick butt rods. And anyway, not last summer, summer before last, I went for a 2-week fishing trip. And I fished 2 days, and I came into the RV, and I was sick. I thought, well, I caught a virus. And I continued to get sicker and sicker. And my husband said, do I need to come get you? And I would take my kayaks. And so I had everything there for the 2 weeks just to fish and to videotape and to do YouTube. And anyway, I kept telling him, no. What if I wake up tomorrow and I feel better? Well, that didn't happen. But I did stay. I stayed the 2 weeks, and most of the time was laying in bed looking out at the water, because I was always right there on the water. And I had the most beautiful sunrises and sunsets. So I came home, and I came home a week into it and went to my regular primary care doctor, and they put me on some antibiotics and stuff and thought that would take it out. They thought it was my diverticulitis that was the problem, and it didn't help. So after the 2 weeks, I came on home with everything, and they set me up to see a GI doctor. And of course, the GI doctor set me up with a colonoscopy. And it was probably another week or so before that even happened. And by that time, I was real sick. I lost 13 pounds in like 5 days. And continued to lose. And so they did that colonoscopy, and I ended up having what they call ulcerative colitis. And those type of things run in my family. My nephew that I just lost a couple of months ago had Crohn's disease. And my grandfather on my dad's side had colon cancer, and he had problems all his life that I remember. Okay, let's cut these up. So long story short, after 2 years on a steroid called prednisone, or was it? I was on prednisone for 2 years, or was it a year? No, it was a year. I take that back. It was a year. And failing numerous drugs that you take by mouth that cost $700 a month, and I have not a stick of insurance. My doctor put me on what they call a biological, and it's called Simponi. And there's no way that me and my husband can afford me to be on this. It's a gift from God, because Johnson & Johnson helps provide me with this medication that I've been on for 2 years. And it's awesome. It really is. I am not normal. I cannot yet go back to fishing. So that's kind of why I started this YouTube channel. Is thinking, you know, okay, we'll keep going. We'll do something else. Because it was hard. Really hard on me when I couldn't fish. I cried, and, you know, the mental part of this disease is almost as bad as the physical part of the disease. But enough about the disease. Well, this is still kind of on the disease. Because that's why I'm cooking the soup. Food did not heal me. Food is my worst enemy. Because if I eat, it has to go through me. So you learn to eat things that, you know, are, that you want to agree with you. And that's not always easy to do. It's not always. But I did find out that you definitely want to cook all your food real good. Anything that you used to eat that, you know, like asparagus that you would barely, you know, cook. Whoops, onions everywhere. Now, you know, I have to cook them very well. I had a salad the other day, and what did I pay for it? Feels like you eat glass, and it's going through you. So, let's get some onions in this pot, and not on the floor. Okay, I got my onions and my garlic, and let's cut up some of these new potatoes. I like to use new potatoes, because they normally don't cook up, you know, real soft and mushy. And I'm gonna let my carrots cook for a little while and soften up before I get my potatoes in there. But I'm gonna go ahead and get them cut up. I'm gonna go ahead and get my cilantro in there. I just kind of roll it up like this as good as I can after I wash it. Oop. Give it a little chop. Put it in the pot. Go ahead and cut up some of these long beans and get them in there. You can alter this, make it any way you want to make it. I mean, it's forgivable. I put some Lowry seasoned salt, some Tony's Cacciatore, a little bit of salt, and some pepper. You don't even have to put beans in there if you don't want, you know. Biggest flavor I like is the cilantro and the cabbage. Yum. Okay, let's get our zucchini going in there. It all, you know, cooks down. And start dumping it in. Moving right along. Looking like a big pot of vegetables, isn't it? So how are y'all doing? Have y'all got all of your canning and stuff done and ready for the winter? I still have a few things that I threw in the freezer, some tomatoes and stuff that I threw in the freezer that I wasn't able to can up at that time, that I still need to do. Have y'all gone down and gotten your flu shots yet? Are y'all gonna get your flu shots? I got mine Monday. They put me on the 65 plus one, even though I'm not 65 yet, because of my health situation. So I'm putting my potatoes over here in a bowl of water. This was my grandma's. That was my grandmother's. I got several things that was hers. Warms my heart. She was a big influence in my life. I lost my real mother when I was 8 years old in a car accident. So my sister and my grandmother and my grandfather were really big in my life. And I had a wonderful stepmom too, but when my stepmom dad got married, that brought 1, 2, 3, 4 other children into the home. So my stepmother was a beautician. She worked. So there were 7 children. So we kind of worked together, you know. Do what you do. Do what you do when it's a big family. Okay, I got those waiting in water here so they don't turn dark. And I haven't put my chicken in yet either. It's still waiting over there. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to cut up my cabbage. I'm not going to put it in, but I'm going to get it ready to go in. So I cut it in half, then I cut it in half again, and then you want to cut out this middle core right here for your compost pile. See if I can show you. See, I just put it at an angle, cut it out. Are your children back in school, or are they doing virtual learning? I've got one grandson that's back in school, but on days that he doesn't want to go to school, or maybe he has a little allergy, runny nose or something like that, then he does virtual learning. And I've got one granddaughter that is going to go back to school, but she got really sick. She picked up some kind of virus, and they tested her for COVID, but she doesn't have COVID, thank God. I think I'm going to add a little bit more garlic. Oh, I don't drop it on the floor. I like garlic. We couldn't find any garlic to plant for the winter. My husband's looked around, and I didn't order any. The place that we usually get it from didn't get any. But it's hard to find anything, really, since the pandemic stuff started. Let loose. Skin don't want to come loose. I mean, if y'all had a hard time finding things since this pandemic, I mean, in the beginning, it was kind of wild. It was really hard to get stuff, but even the canning stuff has been hard to find. And then they want to jack the prices up on everything. My cat, Boots, is rubbing up against my leg. Do you like the smell of this? probably smells the chicken sitting on the counter. I'm still boiling this down. I've got about 5 more minutes, and then I will add the chicken and the potatoes, and then I'll probably boil them for about 2 or 3 minutes, and then I'll add my cabbage. But if I was to dump everything in here, by the time my carrots got tender, then my potatoes and everything else would be overcooked. So I don't want that to happen. Little kitty cat. You want to see my kitty cat? Hey, Bootsy. Say hi. I usually bake sourdough bread to go with this, but I wasn't baking it as much, so I froze my starter. And I would have to pull it out of the freezer, thaw it out, get it activated. It'd probably take a week or so, and I didn't want to do that. So I think my husband's going to stop and get some French bread to go with it. And we'll toast that and dip it in the sauce. The sauce is really good, too. You just wait and see. Okay. Let's add our meat, and let's add our potatoes. Pour off a little bit of water. Okay, let's bring this back up to a boil. We're back up to a boil. So let's get our cabbage cut up and in the pot. My granddaughter's getting married this weekend, and we have a hurricane headed this way. And she has rescheduled her wedding so many times. See, I cut it up fairly small. Dump it in a pot. Because of COVID, she's had to reschedule it. Bless her heart. It's been a mess for things like that. Okay, so you know that the potatoes were not done. I just put them in and brought it back to a boil. So what I'll do now is I'm going to cook it for just a little while, and then I'm going to turn it off. And the heat of everything, it will continue to cook things down. And it'll all come out just perfect, where nothing's, overcooked. Okay, you can see that it's all kind of just all up at the top of the pot here. So I'm just going to smush it a little bit. Smush it down just a little. And I'm going to put the lid on it. And I'm going to let it cook for a few minutes, and then I'll come back and stir it, because that cabbage will wilt, and it'll be easier to stir it in. Oh, and to kind of top the things off about my granddaughter's wedding is it's outdoors, and there's a hurricane headed this way. My heart goes out to her. Breaks my heart. Hey, but they're healthy and alive. That's what counts. I've got one granddaughter getting married, and we just had a brand new grandson. He's beautiful. And I've got great grandchildren, and I just had another grandbaby. It's just, God is good. God is good all the time. Thank you, Lord. Okay, let's stir this up a little bit, because it's starting to wilt down. You can make this soup up just about any way you want. I think I said that before. I've made it with beef before, where my husband cooked steaks on the grill, and we had steaks left over, and oh, that was really good stuff. But I can't eat that much beef anymore. This was before I got sick. But there's something about cooking the meat on the grill, getting that grilled flavor that really adds to your soup, if you can do that. Okay, I don't know if you can see how it's all wilted down. It's came back up to a boil. I've let it boil for just maybe 2 minutes. Now I'm just going to turn it off because it will continue to cook. And I don't want my potatoes and everything else, overcooked. Even the cabbage will continue to cook because I'll let it sit here and cool down. It's early, it's noon, and we're going to have this for supper. So I'll let it cool down and stick it outside in the refrigerator, and then we'll bring it out and warm what we need up. As Mouse Toast says, it isn't rocket science. It's pretty easy peasy. If you like this video, hit that subscribe button, and there's a little bell. If you hit that bell, it's a little notification bell. It'll notify you next time I put out a video. God bless. Thanks for watching, and bye now.